Zombie road trip. Laughter on the apocalypse highway. In a world consumed by chaos and overrun by zombies, the Parker family decided it was time for a change of scenery. They crammed into their battered minivan, along with their slightly senile Grandma Mildred, and set off on a road trip to a rumored safe zone on the outskirts of the city. Little did they know that their journey would be filled with comical escapades and hilarious encounters. The minivan rattled and groaned as they hit the open road. The first stop was an abandoned gas station. Mark parked the van, looked at his family, and sighed with relief. "All right, gang, we need supplies. Lisa, Max, let's go scavenge. Emma, you're on grandma duty." Emma nodded nervously, eyeing her zombified grandmother, who sat in the back seat, her vacant eyes locked onto a half-eaten bag of stale chips. As Mark and the others headed inside the gas station, Emma tried to make conversation with Grandma Mildred. "So, Grandma," she began tentatively, "you ever been on a road trip before?" Grandma Mildred's response was a guttural groan, followed by an attempt to gnaw on a seatbelt. Back inside the gas station, Mark and Max were busy grabbing canned goods and fuel. Mark reached for a bag of chips, and just as he did, Grandma Mildred's munching echoed from outside the store. "Is that Grandma snacking on chips?" Mark exclaimed. Max shrugged, grinning. "Well, at least she's enjoying the apocalypse." Back at the minivan, Emma noticed her grandmother's absence and panicked. "Where's Grandma?" she shouted. Lisa rushed over, and they both saw her wandering amidst the chip debris, munching on Doritos with the enthusiasm of a zombie trying to feast on brains. "Grandma, no!" Lisa cried, rushing forward to grab her. Emma helped, and together they managed to steer her back to the van, where they restrained her once more. Mark returned out of breath and with bags of supplies. "What happened here?" he asked, gesturing to the chip-covered floor. "Grandma had the munchies," Emma replied, trying to stifle her laughter. As they continued their journey, Grandma Mildred would escape her restraint several more times, leading to increasingly comical encounters with zombies. She once tried to have a conversation with a particularly slow-moving undead individual, which left the rest of the family in stitches. Their next stop was another gas station, and this time, they were more prepared. As Mark filled up the tank, Max approached the convenience store with a mischievous glint in his eye. Inside, Max found a zombie munching on a shelf of candy bars. He cleared his throat dramatically and said, "Excuse me, sir, but have you heard the one about the zombie who went to a candy store?" The zombie turned its attention to Max, groaning inquisitively. Max continued, "Well, this zombie said, 'I'll have a Kit Kat, please. I'm feeling a bit fingerish.'" The undead creature stared at Max for a moment, then let out a low, zombie-like chuckle. Max high-fived the zombie and grabbed a few candy bars. Back at the minivan, he proudly presented the loot to his family. "I made a zombie laugh, Dad," he exclaimed. Mark grinned. "Good job, Max. Looks like we've got a budding comedian in the family." The road trip continued, with Grandma Mildred escaping her restraints a few more times, each instance leading to more laughter and amusing encounters. They even encountered a zombie dance party in a parking lot, where Grandma Mildred showed off some surprisingly groovy moves. Finally, after several harrowing days on the road, they reached the rumored safe zone. The barricades and armed guards were reassuring, and the Parkers knew they had made the right choice. As they settled into their new home, Grandma Mildred remained a quirky but cherished member of the family. She might have been a zombie, but she was still their grandma, and they loved her just the way she was, snacking on chips, groaning, and occasionally stealing the show with her undead antics. And so, the Parker family's zombie road trip became a legend in the safe zone, a tale of resilience, humor, and the enduring bonds of family, even in the most absurd of circumstances. They had braved the undead, shared laughs, and created memories that would last a lifetime, or what was left of it in their new world. If you like this story, please subscribe. Thank you. Zombie Hearts, Tinder Dates Show. In a world where the living struggled to find love amidst hordes of the undead, an unconventional dating show emerged, Zombie Hearts. Survivors from all walks of life, weary of fighting off zombies day in and day out, were willing to try anything for a chance at romance. The show was hosted by a charismatic survivor named Alice, who had a knack for keeping things lighthearted, even in a world filled with danger. She introduced the contestants, 10 zombie guys with their own unique undead charm, and one girl zombie named Zara. The show was structured like a typical dating show, with the living contestants competing for the attention of their zombie dates. In the first round, they had to make an entrance and introduce themselves. Zara and the 10 zombie guys sat on opposing sides of a long, blood-stained dining table, waiting to be impressed. As the living contestants took the stage, they tried to make dramatic and humorous entrances to stand out. One guy swung in on a rope, narrowly avoiding a zombie ambush, and declared, "I'm here to sweep you off your decaying feet." The zombies seemed unimpressed, but Alice chuckled in the background. It was now Zara's turn to impress her living date. She shuffled toward him, groaning softly, and attempted to give him a bouquet of dead flowers. The living contestant, a woman named Emily, nervously accepted the bouquet and joked, "Well, I guess they won't wilt." Zara cracked a subtle smile. In the next round, contestants had to engage in witty conversation with their zombie dates. The living contestants tried everything from cracking zombie-themed jokes to discussing their favorite zombie movies. Despite their best efforts, it was challenging to make zombies laugh. Then came the scary, funny pickup lines round. Each living contestant had to deliver a line that was both scary and funny. Zach and Zara sat side by side, listening intently. One contestant, Tim, strolled confidently to the front and proclaimed, "Are you a zombie apocalypse? Because when I see you, my heart starts racing, and I forget how to breathe." The audience burst into laughter, and even Zara couldn't help but chuckle. Emily, the living contestant dating Zara, approached the table and quipped, "Are you made of radioactive material? Because every time I'm near you, I feel like I'm glowing." Zara's grin grew wider. The following living contestant, Rachel, stepped forward and said, "If you were a zombie, you'd be drop-dead gorgeous." Zara playfully rolled her eyes and nodded in appreciation. "Are you a zombie? Because you make my heart race like I'm being chased by a horde," declared Mike, another contestant. Zara giggled, her undead heart fluttering. One after another, the contestants delivered their lines. "Are you a zombie's dream? Because I feel like I'm falling head over heels. Is your name Rigor Mortis? Because you've got me all stiff. If zombies had a queen, you'd be the reigning beauty. Is your blood type Z positive? Because you're positively irresistible. Are you a zombie virus? Because I can't resist your infectious charm. Do you believe in love at first bite? Because I think I just found it." Laughter filled the room as the living contestants and their zombie dates enjoyed the playful banter. Even though the lines were cheesy and macabre, they managed to create a sense of connection and camaraderie between the living and the undead. The final round was a dance-off, and the living contestants and their zombie dates took the floor. It was a hilarious spectacle as the living tried to match the stiff and awkward movements of the undead. They stumbled and twirled, tripping over their own feet, but it was all in good fun. As the show came to a close, Alice announced the winners, Emily and Zara, who had shared the most laughter and smiles throughout the night. The couple was awarded a romantic candlelit dinner at a haunted restaurant, where they could continue their unique love story. Zombie Hearts proved that even in the darkest of times, love and laughter could still find their way into the hearts of survivors and zombies alike. It was a reminder that amidst the chaos and danger, there was room for humor, connection, and perhaps even a little bit of romance. And as the show concluded, Zara and Emily walked hand in hand, a symbol of hope in a world where love continued to thrive, even among the undead. If you like this story, please subscribe. Thank you. Zombie in the Cubicle, a tale of undead integration. In a world where zombies had taken over, life was far from typical. Streets were overrun with the undead, and businesses adapted to accommodate this new, gruesome reality. Amidst this chaos, one zombie named Zedric was determined to prove that the undead could coexist with the living. He had a job, a small apartment, and an unwavering sense of ambition, even though he was now part of the living dead workforce. Zedric's day began like any other, as he groaned his way out of bed, his limbs stiff and lifeless. He had an alarming habit of forgetting that he no longer needed to sleep, leading to zombie-style snores that often terrified his neighbors. Today was special, though. It was his first day at his new job, and he couldn't wait to show the world that zombies could be just as productive as the living. After a quick breakfast of canned brains, Zedric shuffled his way to the bathroom, where he attempted to brush his teeth, only to realize he'd mistakenly grabbed his toothbrush and used it to brush his hair. Typical morning mix-up. He left his apartment and walked down the zombie-infested street, passing fellow zombies as they lumbered along, arms outstretched. The sun had never looked so gloomy. Finally, he arrived at the Living Dead Integration Corp., his new workplace. The office was a decrepit building, half fallen apart, with ivy crawling up its sides. Inside, the atmosphere was just as dismal. Zombies and living employees shared desks, although the zombies were separated from the living by glass partitions to prevent any unexpected snack incidents. Zedric was assigned to a desk next to a living coworker, Sarah, who had been working there for years. Sarah was known for her efficiency and, most importantly, her intense fear of zombies. She had barricaded her desk with garlic, crosses, and an emergency air horn. Zedric, trying to make a good impression, attempted a friendly greeting. Mornin', he groaned, causing Sarah to jump and nearly hit the air horn. Yikes, Sarah exclaimed. Oh, good morning, I guess. She eyed him nervously. As the day went on, Zedric made numerous blunders. He spilled his coffee all over his keyboard, releasing a horrid smell that sent his coworkers scrambling for air fresheners. When he tried to photocopy a document, his fingers went right through the paper, leaving a mess of shredded pages and broken glass. The office janitor, a skeletal zombie named Morty, shook his head disapprovingly as he cleaned up the mess. During a team meeting, Zedric's attempts to contribute were met with blank stares and horrified looks. He couldn't stop groaning while trying to articulate his thoughts, leading to awkward silences punctuated by the occasional gasp from a nearby colleague. Meanwhile, his senior manager, Mr. Grimsby, was known for being both scary and demanding. He had a reputation for having a bad temper, which, unfortunately for Zedric, extended even to undead employees. Zedric's clumsy attempts at impressing Mr. Grimsby only led to more fear and exasperation. As the day neared its end, Zedric decided to try one last time to fit in. He overheard Sarah talking about her upcoming blind date with a living guy named Dave and decided to offer some dating advice. Sarah, if you want to impress Dave, you gotta, be yourself, he moaned, trying to sound encouraging. Sarah blinked in disbelief. Did you just give me dating advice? From a zombie? Zedric shrugged, accidentally dislocating his shoulder in the process. Yeah, I guess so. That evening, Sarah couldn't stop laughing about Zedric's dating advice. She told Dave, who happened to work in the same building, and soon the entire office was buzzing with laughter. Even Mr. Grimsby couldn't help but crack a rare smile. Zedric may not have become the model zombie employee that day, but he had unwittingly achieved something more important. He'd brought humor and unity to a place filled with fear and misunderstanding. The next morning, his coworkers greeted him with smiles, and Sarah even offered to help him get a handle on office tasks. In the end, Zedric proved that even in a world where zombies had taken over, a sense of humor and the willingness to be yourself could bridge the gap between the living and the undead. And so the Living Dead Integration Corp. Became a place where both zombies and living employees could groan, laugh, and share their peculiarities, finding common ground in their differences. If you like this story, please subscribe. Thank you. The Zombie Comedian, Jokes from Beyond the Grave. Meet Dave Stiff, a stand-up comedian who could never get a laugh in his lifetime. He told jokes that were so bad, they'd clear a room faster than a fire alarm. Dave longed for the day when his humor would leave people in stitches. But fate had a different punchline in store for him. One fateful night, after a particularly disastrous gig, Dave stumbled into an alley, feeling like a zombie. And as luck would have it, he did indeed turn into a zombie. Dave had barely finished his last groan before he rose from the grave with an insatiable desire to tell jokes. At first, it was a ghastly sight. Dave's undead appearance didn't help his comedy career, but something miraculous happened every time he cracked a joke. People laughed. They laughed so hard that they nearly lost their brains, figuratively. Dave's comedy routine became an unexpected hit. Audiences flocked to his shows, unaware that their favorite comedian was, in fact, a real zombie. His jokes ranged from dark and macabre to delightfully absurd, all delivered in his signature deadpan style. Why did the zombie go to school? He wanted to improve his deducation. I told my zombie friend a joke. He didn't laugh. He just said, "I've heard better jokes when I was alive." Why did the zombie break up with his ghoul friend? She wanted a fresher relationship. I asked a vampire if he wanted to hear a joke. He said only if it's bloody good. I told a ghost a joke, and he didn't react at all. He's a real transparent audience. Dave's popularity soared as people became addicted to his comedy. They didn't know that every time they laughed, they were actually saving themselves from being a part of his brain food. Backstage, Dave had to keep a fridge full of brains to maintain his zombified state. He would take a bite between jokes, but the audience always assumed it was just a prop or a part of his act. They never suspected that the secret ingredient to his success was their brains. One day, Dave's secret was on the verge of being discovered when a curious stagehand stumbled upon his brain stash. Panic set in as Dave tried to explain that it was all for show, but the stagehand wasn't buying it. As the stagehand ran to alert the authorities, Dave hurriedly went on stage and delivered a joke that would save his undead career. Why did the zombie comedian eat the stagehand's brain? Because it was a brainstorm of an idea. The audience roared with laughter, completely oblivious to the real punchline. Dave's secret remained safe, and he continued to entertain with his jokes from beyond the grave. And so Dave Stiff, the zombie comedian, kept the laughter alive, one deadpan joke at a time, as he devoured the brains of his unsuspecting fans. They say his comedy was so good that it was truly to die for. And for Dave, it was the only way to stay undead. If you like this story, please subscribe. Thank you. Biting Comedy, a therapist's tale of a fantastic cure. In the heart of Milltown, where the extraordinary often blended with the mundane, Dr. Emily Collins was a respected psychologist known for her expertise in treating phobias. She had helped countless patients overcome their fears, but her next client would be unlike any other. Enter Victor, a suave and sophisticated vampire with a problem that baffled even his immortal existence. He had an irrational fear of blood. Victor's pallid skin and fangs might have screamed vampire, but his timid demeanor and nervous glances betrayed his secret. Victor had spent centuries avoiding his own kind, fearing the temptation of blood would lead him down a dark path. It was time for him to confront his fear, so he sought the help of Dr. Collins, a human therapist known for her unconventional methods. Their first session began with Victor recounting his early years as a vampire. It all started in 17th century Transylvania, he began, adjusting his cape nervously. I was bitten and turned, but I could never bear to drink blood. Even the sight of it makes me shudder. Dr. Collins, trying to remain composed, nodded sympathetically. We'll work through this, Victor. We'll start with exposure therapy. Today I've brought some images of blood. She showed him a picture of a glass filled with red liquid. Victor recoiled and looked away, burying his face in his hands. It's too much, he stammered. Emily suppressed a smile but managed to keep a professional tone. We'll take it slow, Victor. Now let's try some relaxation exercises. As they delved into the therapy sessions, Victor's phobia led to some comical encounters. During one session, he accidentally tripped and sent a bag of fake blood splattering across the room. In another, he mistook a tomato juice carton for actual blood, nearly fainting at the sight. Their interactions became a blend of humor and horror, as Dr. Collins found herself caught between her duty as a therapist and her own amusement at Victor's predicament. Still, she remained committed to helping him conquer his fear. During one particularly tense session, as they discussed Victor's fear of garlic, Dr. Collins joked, "So, Victor, I suppose Italian restaurants are out of the question for you?" Victor chuckled nervously. "Indeed, garlic bread is my arch nemesis." As the therapy progressed, Emily couldn't help but admire Victor's determination to face his fear, even though it led to moments of absurdity. She knew that their unconventional approach was working when Victor managed to hold a vial of fake blood without trembling. However, the real breakthrough came when they decided to visit a blood drive together. Victor faced his fear head-on, witnessing people donating blood, and even joining a support group for individuals with unusual phobias. One evening, as they sat in her office for their final session, Victor smiled, revealing his sharp fangs. "Dr. Collins, you've helped me conquer my fear. I no longer shudder at the sight of blood." Emily beamed with pride. "You've come a long way, Victor. But remember, it's not about erasing your vampire nature. It's about embracing it and managing your fears." As they said their goodbyes, Victor left her office with newfound confidence. He no longer avoided the presence of his fellow vampires or the scent of blood. Instead, he had learned to coexist with his nature. Emily, on the other hand, had conquered her own fear, the fear of laughter in a serious setting. Victor's quirky journey had not only helped him, but it also reminded her that humor could be a powerful tool in healing. Over the following months, Victor and Emily remained in touch, occasionally sharing stories and jokes. Victor even attended one of Emily's comedy shows, where she made light of her own experiences as a therapist. And so, in the heart of Milltown, where the supernatural met the everyday, Dr. Emily Collins and Victor the Vampire had shared a journey filled with both laughter and self-discovery. In the end, it was a tale of facing one's fears, no matter how irrational or humorous they might be. It was a story of growth, connection, and the enduring power of humor in the face of the extraordinary. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.